Hey everybody, Tall Family Films here. I had this problem where I put my parking brake on and just have the engine on here, put it in reverse, and the no gas, I'm not applying anything to the accelerator, the car doesn't hold. So you can see out the door here, the ground's still moving even though the brake is on. So also I could push that pedal all the way to the floor without much of a problem. So the first thing you can check for this is you can adjust this bolt right here. This adjusts the tension on the cable. I mean this nut. The more you tighten the nut, the tighter the cable tension gets. That nut was tightened all the way up. Alright, so to fix this I need to check something else. So you need to take the brake off, the emergency brake off, or the parking brake, whatever you call it. Take the rear wheels off, and you're going to have to take the rotor off to do this, unfortunately. So some cars actually have a little peep hole in the back where you can fix this without taking all this apart. So you got to take the brakes off. This is not a video on how to change brakes, but I actually have one on changing brakes on this exact car, and here's a link for it right here in the upper right hand corner. Alright, so once the brake caliper has been removed, the rotor just slides right off. And these underneath are the parking brake shoes. And the first thing you need to check is, do you have any shoes? These look pretty good. Okay, so the next thing we need to check is the adjuster adjusted properly? So there's this little wheel, we'll get a better shot at it here. There's this little spiked wheel here, and we just need to literally turn that a couple of times. As we rotate it, it will lengthen the threads that you see above it, and we'll be able to adjust the brakes that way. So let's clean all this up. Get some brake cleaner. Do this in a well-ventilated area. I'm outside here, and you definitely would prefer to be outside because this stuff really smells strong. So I'm cleaning up both sides of the brakes, getting them as clean as I can. I want to make sure in the future that I don't have something lock up because it's just covered up in corrosion. Alright, so you take a screwdriver, put it in the teeth, and you just turn it. You'll always be turning these clockwise on both sides of the car. And as you turn it, the threads above it should become more visible. Once you feel like you've adjusted it enough, you can put the rotor back on. If the rotor goes back on extremely easily, then you may want to do a couple of things. One is you may want to tighten the adjuster some more. But the second thing is you may want to loosen the cable on that bolt that we talked about earlier. Loosen that nut up some, so that in the future you'll be able to adjust the brakes by just tightening that nut and not having to do all this. So you don't want that nut to be all the way tightened down. You probably want to adjust that before you are finished with the job, which means you're going to have to turn this wheel a lot more. So I put the rotor back on, and it was a little too loose. Felt like I could definitely tighten that some more. And it will get a little bit tighter and tighter as you put it on. You do not want to put the rotor back on where it's really tight, and you can turn this thing the other way. Okay, so once you feel like you've gotten, you'll notice a difference in how the rotor fits. It won't be quite as shaky, doesn't have quite as much slack in it when you put it on. And once you feel like you've gotten it to that point, then you're done with this side. But unfortunately, the parking brake exists on both sides of the car. All right, so let's put this side back together. There's a couple little tricks on putting this thing back in. They're in the brake video that you can watch. Always use Loctite. So anytime you're dealing with brakes or suspension, anything like that, use Loctite on the threads, or thread locker as it's generically called. So here we are on the passenger side now. All right, make sure that also, this is in the brake video, make sure that you don't just let the caliper hang and hurt the brake line. So, all right, so here we are now on doing the passenger side, and again, we're going to rotate these clockwise. And notice how you can barely see any threads above the adjuster right now, and in a second you're going to see a lot more threads after I've adjusted it out some. Okay, so you can see a lot more threads now, and that's exactly what you want to see. Maybe not that much, it just depends. These brakes had not been adjusted in, I think, 200,000 miles. So these are probably the original ones that came with the car. It's got 218,000 miles on it. Okay, so that's pretty much all there is to doing this job. So once you have put the whole thing back together, put the wheels back on, you can test this out, make sure that it's holding like it should. You'll notice a difference when you push the pedal down. It'll be a lot tighter. It will feel a lot stiffer, but I found that that is not the only test that you need to do. It can still not hold the car in place even though it feels a good bit tighter. So you may need to tighten more than you think you need to. Hey, if this video helped you, you could help everybody else who's searching for similar things by giving this video a thumbs up. You could really help me by subscribing to my channel, and I'd really appreciate that. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'll get back as soon as I can. Thanks.